The Rams scored a touchdown to take a 17-10 lead with about a minute 45 left in the game. No timeouts remaining for San Francisco. They come back and score. They go the length of the field, minute 45, no timeouts, to punch in a touchdown literally with no time left on the clock. They go for it from the 1-yard line with 1 second left to go. Brock Purdy with a 1-yard touchdown run. Evens it up at 17. That felt like the turning point of the game. The Rams never really felt like they were going to threaten and win the game after that.
Yeah, they had a chance to really go into halftime with a lead. And then having that lead, knowing that you get the ball to start the second half, you really felt like the Rams had control of the football game. But you allowed the 49ers to drive 1 minute, 45 seconds and no timeouts. That's the part that I think really, for me, the Rams really lost a golden opportunity, because all they had to do was just tackle the 49ers in bounds. You tackle them in bounds, that clock was going to run. And they just allowed the big chunk play to Deebo Samuel. Then Christian McCaffrey got going. And then to see the Rams make a couple of penalties down near the end zone also gave the 49ers an opportunity. And I'm looking, hey, the ball's on the 1-yard line. How many coaches would say, you know what, let's just take our points? The 49ers was like, no, we feel comfortable where we're at. Our defense is actually playing pretty well. It's not like we're playing bad. It's just the Rams have the lead because they put a couple of drives together. 49ers were all about it. They went for it. They got the touchdown to Brock Purdy. You mentioned it. They really never looked back.
So you all of a sudden you come out in the second half, and what was so clean and so good in the first half, which was a lot of ball control. They held the ball for long periods of time, long drives that resulted in points, keeping that 49er offense off of the field. For the most part, it didn't look like that in the second half. A couple of Matthew Stafford interceptions, one really not his fault, bouncing off the hands of Kyren Williams into the arms of the defender. The other one maybe a bad decision with Diamador Lenore stepping in front of a pass intended for Van Jefferson, but some pretty quick drives that didn't burn a lot of time, and that San Francisco 49er offense back on the field a lot, and you're asking a lot to continue to stop those guys time after time after time.
It's just too difficult. I mean, those guys are some of the best in the National Football League, and to see those guys have repeated opportunities and to create the big plays, that's what it was. To me, it was explosive plays that really hurt the Rams. Because, look, they didn't have a ton of third downs today, right? I think, let me see, I was looking at the third downs. They only had really, four or five third down opportunities defensively, because they kept the 49ers pretty much in check. But when you have those explosives, now you're talking about 20-yard plays, 30-yard plays, 51-yard plays. That's way too many, and that's what I think resulted in a lot of what happened and what occurred today.
Yeah, just nine third downs all day long.
And 2 for 9.
49ers. Yeah. 2 for 9. The Rams did a pretty good job on third 9, but they weren't able to get into enough third down situations along the way. And, this is a bit of a broken record, right? Every time we see the Rams and the 49ers play each other during the regular season, we talk about Deebo Samuel and their inability to slow him down, and he was terrific all over again today. He had 6 catches for 63 yards along the way, and he just had that. He has that thing that when they need a big play, he seems to be the guy that always gives them one.
Yeah, he's got that it factor. And the thing about it is they know who their superstars are, so they get them the football. I just thought that throughout the game, the Rams should have just, to me, they just had too many mistakes in the second half.
Yeah.
Mistakes that you just can't have going against a team that played in the NFC Conference Championship game last year. This is a 49ers team that didn't play their best game, but look at the way they stepped up in the second half, and especially the fourth quarter. They took it up a notch for sure.
I think there's a lot of positives to come out of this, and I get it. It's pro sports, and you either win or you lose, that there are not any moral victories in the NFL. I'm well aware of that. Mm-hmm. But if we agree and, take everybody's power rankings, and for whatever those are worth, and probably not all that much, but the San Francisco 49ers are at the top of most of these. The Rams were not at the top of these. They can play with them. They can go in there and hang with one of the best teams in the NFL. You clean up a couple of the mistakes. You stay healthy. You get a bounce here or there. This is a team that if you run it back again, I'm sure that Sean McVey and his squad would feel very good about their chances. This was as competitive a game with the 49ers as we've seen over the last couple of years.
I wanted to say this earlier, right? I wanted to say this earlier and say the Rams are going to go out there and compete. And I'm not so sure that if they lose the football game, I don't think anything differently of the Rams. The 49ers are a team that's been complete, and they're kind of carrying over from last year and where they finished at. I think the Rams are a really good team who are starting to understand their roles, starting to realize that Puka Nacua is going to be your go-to until Cooper Kupp comes back, starting to see that Tutu Atwell is definitely turning a corner.
No doubt.
Right? those are your top two receivers right now. Van Jefferson has not looked like himself. Kyron Williams, going in today, we thought was going to be the backup running back. He's a starting running back. So the thing about this Rams team is that they're a work in progress. They're still building. They're still laying the foundation of what this team's going to look like in 2023, whereas the 49ers already knew who they were. Right, that's the one thing. I was talking to Mac Brown, coach of North Carolina,
former Texas coach.
Yeah, and this is a specific question that I asked him this weekend. I said, you've had a couple of tough opponents. You played South Carolina, you played App State, now you're playing Minnesota. I said, what do you know about your team? And it made perfect sense. He says, Kirk, I know what we are. Like, we've been in games to know who we are, what we are, who do I trust, who I don't trust. We didn't play any cupcakes to start the season. I think that's the same thing with the Rams. You're starting to understand who they are. You went up to Seattle, made an outstanding game. Today, you stood toe-to-toe with the best team in the NFL. I'm not afraid to say that. 49ers are the best team in the NFL. You tell me a team better. People, when they say Dallas, I don't know. Dallas beat up on Zach Wilson today. That doesn't count. I think the best team in the NFL was the San Francisco 49ers, and the Rams stood there toe-for-toe. I won't call it a decision because I think the knockout came at the end of the fight. But the Rams stood toe-to-toe with them for a majority of the fight.
All right, Rams fans, what did you see out there today? Go ahead and give us a call, 877-710-ESPN, 877-710-3776. And you mentioned his name there a second ago. We'll spend a lot of time talking about him today, and that's Puka Nacua, who set an NFL record today at 15 catches. That is the most ever by an NFL rookie in a game. He has the most catches ever through the first 2 games of his NFL career. That's just an unbelievable start. He has, he had a drop there towards the end, a ball that he probably should have caught, a tough catch, but one that I'm sure he would think that he was going to catch.
Right.
But you're looking at a guy who very clearly is developing a relationship and developing an understanding with Matthew Stafford. And I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here, Kirk, but it does feel a little bit like what we saw with Stafford in Cup and Jared Goff in Cup, where all of a sudden they're just on the same page at the same time. You get Cup back here in a few weeks. You put those two guys together, and I think you're really on to something.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're really starting to see that you have a pretty good, versatile wide receiving group. Ben Skowronek had a couple carry today.
Yep.
Tutu made some huge big catches.
It was great.
Puka just seems to have a knack for getting open, a knack for getting separation, and Matthew Stafford applauds that. I think you still got to get the tight end going with Tyler Higbee. But I would say for 3/4 of this game, I thought the offensive line kept Matthew Stafford clean. It was when Joe Noteboom went down, that's when I saw the Rams' offensive line start to have a little bit of leakage. And you saw Fred Warner come through with the sack, and there's just not enough time for Matthew Stafford. And there's a couple things that you wish you could have back, right? Matthew Stafford's in great position. The team's driving, and I don't know if he thought the receiver was going to go to the corner or was it a stop route, whatever.
Yeah.
But he get calls for intentional grounding. That backs you up 10, you lose a loss of down. And so that really pushed them off an opportunity of scoring a touchdown and getting close. So there's things that the Rams will be able to clean up that doesn't take me away from where I think that they're heading.
I want to talk more about that offensive line that we saw from the Rams today, because for the first 2.5, 3 quarters or so, it was very, very good. Is it sustainable? That's coming up next. You are listening to the Coors Light Rams postgame show. Coors Light, keeping Southern California chill all season long. More to come on the ESPN LA Rams Radio Network.
and Kirk Morrison.
30-23, the final score from SoFi Stadium. The Rams drop their home opener. They are headed to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals on Monday Night Football a week from tomorrow night. Looking to get back on the right side of 500 right there. So let's talk about this real quick, Kirk, before we take some of these phone calls. If you'd like to get in, 877-710-ESPN, 877-710-3776. The offensive line in Seattle was terrific. That kept Matthew Stafford very clean. Today, it was very good. We did see Joe Noteboom go down, and Tremaine Ankrum comes in and replaces him at that right guard position. But what did you make of the O-line today overall? Started off great. How do you think it finished?
Well, for me, the most part is that I didn't hear Nick Bosa's name.
Not much.
We're talking about the defensive player of the year. We did not hear his name. They only gave up one sack, and that was Fred Warner. And that was a little bit later in the game where an obvious passing situation for the Rams. But I thought Matthew Stafford, for the most part, had a clean pocket throughout the game. There was a couple that he missed with the pressures, but I didn't see where he was getting knocked around and sacked around. I thought that he played – he was upright for the most part. We didn't have those cringe moments where you said, wow, well, what was that about? He was able to get out of the pocket on some just to keep the chains give him a different launch angle.
Yep.
But the offensive line, I thought, did their job. They even got some good push on the run. And in those third and short situations, I thought they were able to play on the other side of the line of scrimmage. So I give the Rams offensive line a ton of credit. That has not been the issue these first couple weeks. That has actually been a bright spot. And, today Noteboom goes down, Ankrum goes in there, and there wasn't a big drop-off. But obviously when you're playing against the number one defense, at some point it was going to come and bite you.
It was impressive to see because while, they did only give up the one sack, that's 1 through 2 games. That's an incredibly good start for any offensive line, but for an offensive line that struggled the way that it did last year. But I think what you said, Kirk, is incredibly important. We talked about it during the pregame show. The Rams had been outmatched physically against the Niners over the last few seasons, that the Niners were the more physical team. I don't know if you could say that tonight. I don't know if the Rams won that battle necessarily, but they didn't lose it either. That this was the first time it felt like when it came to a battle of physicality that the Rams were able to match them player for player.
I thought they flew around defensively and made a lot of tackles, a lot of big tackles, right? Obviously, there was the explosive plays, but that didn't necessarily give you a situation in which you felt like the Rams were just going to fall away. And, oh, my goodness, are you serious? Hail Mary, touchdown for the Broncos.
Right?
Wow.
How about that? That's
Are you serious?
They got to get 2, though, right?
They got to get 2.
Yeah.
So the game's not over. Wow. Sorry for the reaction.
Well, you don't see a lot of Hail Marys.
You don't see the Hail Marys.
Live radio, Kirk. It's going to happen, right?
Yeah, this is why you play every single play.
Tipped.
And nobody's trying to knock the ball down. Everybody's trying to make an interception.
There it is. Unreal.
Wow. Okay. The Rams, look, overall, again, I thought the physical nature that the 49ers present in this game, the Rams stood tall. The Rams came to this game and said, you know what, we're going to be just as physical as the 49ers, if not more physical, and they did that, right? It wasn't the 49ers pushing the Rams around. I just thought that the Rams gave up too many explosive plays. But at the end of the day, I thought the Rams also got their explosive plays, too. Puka Nacua is a very physical receiver.
Yes, he is.
Tutu played physical.
He did. For a smaller guy,
he played physical. He had some physical catches in this game. So, look, my hat's off to the Rams, man. I don't take this loss lightly at all. I think they did a terrific job.
No, look, again, it's the NFL. You win or you lose, and that's all it is. But I think if you're looking at where the Rams are through the first couple of games of the season, you feel pretty good about it. They are 1-1. They lost to a team that might be the best team in the whole league. You think is the best team in the whole league.
Yeah.
They got a chance to go and show the entire league, Monday Night Football next week, that they're about this. No one was really counting them in as a playoff contender in the NFC, and after 2 weeks, I think that they're going to have to change that. That this is a team that can make the playoffs playing the way that they have so far. Let's try a phone call right here. Let's go to Conrad. Conrad, you are on the Coors Light postgame show with Travis and Kirk. What's up, Conrad?
Hey, guys, how you doing? So this 49ers game was kind of a measuring stick to see where this team would be. And you know what? They did pretty well. I mean, they hung in with one of the best teams in the NFL. And kind of by week 2 and 3, you kind of know where your team is going to be. And I think this Rams team, they have some young blood in there. I think they could make the playoffs. We made our own mistakes, and that's what happened. This game was winnable. So, but I got to say, the Rams look really good, and I'm surprised that they hung in there.
Thanks for the call, Conrad. I think that's right. I think that you can feel decent about this because it wasn't that the Rams didn't have some answers. It wasn't that they got run over. It wasn't like they did some things that were unfixable. You know, you throw a mistake, you miss a block here or there. There's a drop that Kyren Williams dropped to bounce off his hands. It turns into an interception. You clean up just a few plays. We talk about this all the time. In the NFL, it's a 4 or 5 play game, right? These games all come down to 4 or 5 plays over the course of the day, and unfortunately the Rams are on the wrong side of too many of those, but generally where they are right now, it feels pretty good.
Yeah, the turnovers hurt, man, no matter what. And I know one was not the fault of, obviously, Matthew Stafford. That one goes off the hands of Kyren Williams. The second one's just quarterback, wide receiver, not in touch. I thought that Mark Sanchez made a great point, and when you look at it, you know, Van Jefferson has to come a little bit flatter on the route, and that would give Matthew Stafford more of an opportunity to get that ball there. When you do go a little bit,
curl it off a little bit.
Curl it off a little bit. The corner could just undercut it, and then that's an interception. So, look, the Rams stood tall, right? They played tough. They played physical. They played hard. They did everything that – look, to me, I thought that they controlled the game. When I looked at it a little bit earlier, I'm like, I got to see the final stats. Yeah, but, yeah, they controlled – they had the ball longer than the 49ers, 33 minutes. Maybe you could say, hey, some of it was because at the end they were trying to score, but they outgained the 49ers. There was a lot to like about the Rams' performance today that excites me for next Monday because before the season, if you said, hey, there's going to be an 0-2 team on Monday night in Week 3, we would have said, oh, yeah, probably the Rams. And yet here they are coming in at 1-1, knowing why we're 1-1. Where I look at the opposite side, Joe Burrow, who also tweaked his calf injury again today. Now they go in 0-2, and they're scrapping, trying to figure things out. I feel like the Rams are in a better situation for the Super Bowl 56 rematch.
Hey, look, I'm a talk show host by nature, so I'm always looking down the road.
Oh, yeah.
You think about an opportunity to win in Cincinnati, to be 2-1, to go into Indianapolis in Week 4, chance to play a rookie quarterback, chance to win a game there, and all of a sudden that 3-3 through 6 feels very doable, if not 4 wins along the way. Correct. To get to 5 wins after going into the bye week, maybe 6 wins is in play. We know what that second half of the schedule looks like. Yes. Very, very winnable games there along the way as well. Let's try another phone call here. Let's go to East L.A. and Isaac. Isaac, you're on with Travis and Kirk on the Coors Light Postgame Show. What's up, Isaac?
Gentlemen, how are you doing? Good afternoon. Yeah, I want to touch on what you had said with respect to Van Jefferson. I just don't see him contributing that much. You know, I know Puka's doing a really good job as Tutu, but where's Van Jefferson? I'm not seeing, you know, him executing the way I would anticipate to be doing. I don't know if he's hurt again or what's happening. You know, it's concerning with me with respect to how he's, you know, that one pick. Yeah, it was probably not the best read, but going to help Stafford out a bit right there.
Thanks for the call, Isaac. No, Van Jefferson, pretty quiet day. He had 4 catches in the opening game against Seattle, just 1 today for 9 yards. Wasn't targeted very much either, just 4 targets along the way. One of those did turn into an interception. And look, who's playing well, who's open, that's where the ball's going to go, who's in the right spots at the right time. That's been Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell. And Van Jefferson, look, we'll see what happens when Cooper Kupp comes back, but right now, if you're just going to fast forward to that, it's going to be Kupp, it's going to be Nacua, it's going to be Atwell, and Van Jefferson's going to have a hard time finding some targets.
All I need to know is that when I look at the targets, Puka Nacua today, 20 targets.
Right.
Van Jefferson, 4 targets. And one of them happens to be an interception. So that tells me everything I need to know, that Matthew Stafford does not have a connection right now with Van Jefferson. They've been together for 2 years. So that's not a situation of they don't know each other or they're still trying to get acclimated. No. Right now, Puka Nacua, with the absence of Cooper Kupp, is the Rams' best wide receiver.
Yeah, and it's not even close, quite frankly. All right, let's come back and take some more of these phone calls. 877-710-ESPN. That's 877-710-3776. We'll talk also about Kyren Williams. Had a pretty good day as the Rams running back in place of Cam Akers, who was inactive, a healthy inactive for today's game. We'll get into that as well. It's all coming up on the Coors Light Postgame Show on the ESPN LA Rams Radio Network.
Rams Radio Network.
Rams Niners is a final today at SoFi.
Snap back to Stafford. Deepest drop of the day. Throws one, tipped up, intercepted. Through the hands of Kyren Williams and taken away at the 25-yard line. Matthew Stafford's first interception of the season is not on him. The Niners defense was just too much for Matthew Stafford and the Rams high-powered offense. Rams lose. They're 1-1 on the season. Get ready for the Bengals in Week 3. We recap it all on the Coors Light Postgame Show. Live from Hollywood Park Casino. Coors Light, keeping Southern California chill all season long. Once again from HPC Hollywood Park Casino. Eat, drink, play. Here is Travis Rogers and Kirk Morrison.
Rams may indeed be 1-1, but I think it's a pretty good spot that they're in right now, Kirk, considering the way that the first 2 weeks have looked, which is coming into the year. The big question was, what is that rebuilt offensive line going to look like? Are they going to be able to protect Matthew Stafford? And the answer through first 2 weeks is a resounding yes. He has only been sacked twice, and we've seen Matthew Stafford. When you give him some time, he's going to find people, and who he really found today was Puka Nacua. You mentioned 20 targets along the way. 15 catches. That is an NFL record for a rookie wide receiver. 15 catches. Also, the NFL record for most receptions through the first 2 weeks of the season as well. Kyren Williams was your starting running back today, and he had 2 touchdowns as well. Looked pretty good. He did have that ball off his hands that led to an interception. We are taking phone calls from Rams fans. If you want to get in and talk about what you saw, do you feel good about the 1-1 start? 877-710-ESPN. And let's start in Orange County with Ellie. Ellie, you are on the Coors Light Postgame Show with Travis and Kirk.
Hey, what up, Travis?
Hey, Ellie, what's new?
Hey, you think Cam Akers will be gone by the end of the week?
Well, let's start. Yeah, Ellie, excuse me. Let's get into this a little bit because Jordan Rodriguez from The Athletic tweeted just a few minutes ago, and this is what she wrote. She says, Sean McVey calls making Akers inactive a coach's decision, says it's, quote, different, close quote, than what happened last year. The team is evaluating options over the next couple of days, but that they will not, quote, go back and forth. So, surprised this morning, Kirk, when we were doing the pregame show, that we found out that Cam Akers was a healthy inactive. Right. We know what happened last year. We don't need to go over that again, other than he was sent home for a period of time and then brought back. But here we are in week 2, and we're going through it again.
Yeah, look, last year we knew that there was something going on, and he demanded to be traded. Now, he ended up not being traded. I think the Rams tried to, that nobody would be a taker. I thought that this offseason something would be done in terms of, hey, look, the way that things went last year just got really tenuous. And he ended up coming back and playing well down the stretch. So it wasn't like he didn't care about being a Ram anymore. He played hard. But this a little more shocking. Okay, because you're preparing to play against
week 2.
We're in week 2, and it's like, all right. So to me, there has to be a resolution here. He's a restricted free agent, so he can't be for next year. He would still be under contract with the Rams. He's not a free agent, so the Rams have control over him. I honestly believe he wants to be he wants to be a free agent.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to be here anymore, and that to me is something I kind of scratch my head at when you look at the running back market. The running back market has not been kind to a lot of running backs. To anybody. And the first thing you're going to think of, if you're a general manager, if you're a head coach, what does Cam Akers provide for me? It's not like he's been rushing for 1,000 yards. It's not like he's this dynamic back. He's been good for the Rams. He's been efficient, but can you trust him?
Well, the Rams obviously don't. I mean, that's obviously a decision that came to a head very, very quickly. And reading what that tweet from Jordan Rodriguez says, that we're not going to go back and forth to answer Ellie's question, do you think he's gone by the end of the week? I don't know if he's gone by the end of the week, but I know that they're not going to do this again.
Correct.
Right? This not that he's inactive, he's active. He's inactive, he's active. Yeah. He's been sent home. We're trying to trade him. No, we're not trying to trade him. We brought him back, and by the way, he runs for 125 yards one weekend. They're not. It just feels like whatever decision is going to be made relatively quickly.
Yeah, my buddy always calls it. Ain't no hokey pokey here. Ain't no one right foot in, right foot out. It's either you're all in or you're all out, and I think that's where right now the Rams would just have to make to me, they have to make a decision. Now, the decision already is that Kyren Williams gave you the production today. Just the one bad play, right? The one drop that resulted in the interception by Isaiah Oliver for the San Francisco 49ers. But outside of that play, I thought he had a pretty clean game. He ran the ball effectively. He caught the ball effectively outside of that one drop.
Yep.
And I thought he picked up the blitz as well. There's a trust factor with Sean McVay and him. And it seems the play calls that they give Kyren Williams have been able to hit a little more. They're putting a little extra blockers in front of him. And once he hits the hole, he is north and south with his shoulder square.
Kyren Williams, 14 carries for 52 yards and a touchdown on the ground. And like Kirk mentioned, he also was pretty good in the passing game as well. 6 catches for 48 yards. He also had a touchdown there, a 2-touchdown day for Kyren Williams, who got the start in place of Cam Akers, who was deactivated prior to the game despite being healthy. So that feels like we're getting to a decision on him and his future with the Rams pretty quickly. Let's try another phone call here. Let's go to John. John, you're next on the Coors Light Postgame Show with Travis and Kirk. What's up?
Hi, Travis. East Coast Rams fan here for a long time.
Welcome,
I was
John.
listening to the game today on the radio with JB, and I thought the turning point was the opening drive of the second half. The Rams were near midfield, and it was fourth down, and they didn't go for it. They just had that delay of game penalty, and I thought, at that point, they had nothing to lose there. You roll the dice because this is your chance to put points on the board, and they just, they took that penalty, and then they punted the ball away.
Thanks for the call, John. Kirk, I asked you and I were sitting together during that, and I said, you think they're going to go for it here? And you said, no, they're not. They're going to try to draw them off. And the delay of game was not because they couldn't get it together. It's they were not going to snap the ball to begin with. So not so big a deal on the penalty right there. But what did you make of that decision to punt it away at 4th and 2?
Yeah, I was a little shocked at that point because I thought the Rams are aggressive, and the 49ers just showed you how aggressive they were.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I thought this was going to be a contest of who's got the bigger chest, right? Who wants to poke their chest out a little bit. And that was an opportunity. I thought the Rams could have really tried to say, you know what, we're in this. We feel like, hey, we're at home. Let's go for it. Your defense is playing well. I don't want to put this on the defense like that defense had a bad game. I thought the defense played well. There's some stretches where some plays they wish they had back. But I think you got to have a belief and a trust in your defense that they'll have your back on those situations.
They didn't get run over like they have in previous matchups against the 49ers where there's no answer for McCaffrey. I know he hit a 50-yard or 51-yard run along the way. Debo had a nice touchdown.
Explosives, man.
But there weren't a bunch of touchdowns. They held them to field goals. They were pretty good in the red zone along the way. And overall, while 30 points isn't great, it also doesn't feel like the end of the world against a team as explosive as the 49ers.
Well, the 49ers got a little cocky once they got a couple of interceptions too, right? The defense start playing a little bit differently. They start pressuring more. It was to a point where I thought the Rams offense were putting the pressure on that 49ers defense in terms of the way that they were connecting on passes. I mean, they had those guys on their heels for a pretty much, I would say, 3/4 of the game, and then it just a tide change after that interception. It's just, we just saw it. The Rams were not the same team after that Kyren Williams drop and turned to an interception.
That interception and the 49er touchdown right at the end of the second quarter going into halftime felt like the momentum really changed significantly. Let's pause 10 seconds for stations to identify themselves on the ESPN LA Rams radio network. Game today against the San Francisco 49ers, a couple of very familiar themes, namely Kyle Shanahan and Deebo Samuel. We'll get into that. It is coming up next. Plus, we'll hear from the head coach of the Rams, Sean McVey, on the Coors Light postgame show on the ESPN LA Rams radio network.
Hey, guys, looking for a fun
Casino, eat, drink, play. Here is Travis Rogers and Kirk Morrison.
Kirk, it is hard to believe, but the Rams have lost to the 49ers 9 consecutive times during the regular
Not one,
season.
not two, not three,
Right.
not four, not five, not six, not seven, not eight,
9.
but 9.
9 times
Woo!
in a row. Now, thank goodness the NFC Championship game went the way that it did a couple of years ago, because that's the one that matters more than those other 9 along the way. But obviously the 49ers are a good team. A couple of those games, it felt like the Rams had, they didn't have to have it, and maybe they didn't throw their best punch in any of these games because they'd wrapped up divisions or what it might have been. But 9 times in a row in the NFL is 9 times in a row. What's going on?
The 49ers just have the Rams' number, regular season-wise. They find a way. They stick to their game plan. I think a lot of it has to do with the 49er faithful. Mm-hmm. Right? The fan base.
Quite a few fans there today.
Quite a few fans there today. That would kind of give them a little bit of a boost on the road. But overall, it just seems that their football team, not like they're well prepared, it's just that the ball sometimes just doesn't bounce the Rams' way. Now, the one time that it did, it was a Jaquiski Tartt missed interception that resulted in the Rams moving toward a Super Bowl.
Yep.
Right? And they ended up winning that year. But it comes down to a couple plays. Every time the Rams play the 49ers, it comes down to the fourth quarter. Very rarely do we see a blowout. We just like, well, the Rams Rams don't even belong on the field. So within these losses, it comes down to one or two plays that truly changes the tide of the game.
And today was a play towards the end of the first half. Actually, the last play of the first half, a 1-yard touchdown run from Brock Purdy that tied the game at 17.
Right.
And then there was a deflected, or I should say a dropped pass from Kyren Williams that led to an interception that it felt like the Rams were going to be able to take the lead again in the third quarter, and that certainly didn't go that way. Sean McVey had a chance to speak with J.B. Long and Maurice Jones-Drew after the loss.
Maurice Jones-Drew, J.B. Long back at SoFi Stadium with the head coach of your Los Angeles Rams, who fall today to the San Francisco 49ers. Sean, the Niners really dialed up the pressure, sent blitzes at you in the second half. What were the Rams not able to do to combat that?
Yeah, there was just some communication errors, and it's all things that, we're capable of being able to do. Hats off to them. You got to give them their credit, but I love this group. I think this is a great opportunity for us to be able to learn. I love the way that we handled a lot of the different things, and then there was, some critical moments where you could really see that was the difference in the outcome of the game, I felt like, and it's a couple plays, and your margin for error against an excellent football team is very slim, but it's just a long season. We've learned a lot about this group in the first couple weeks, and I'm really proud of them. I can't wait to go back to work to be able to clean up some of those things and to be able to help them and try to make better decisions for them. But, we're going to move forward the right way. This is the first little adversity that we face, but I have no doubt about it that this is going to be a group that responds the right way, and we'll continue to take it a day at a time because that's all we can do.
Coach, your rookies showed up big again. Steve Avila does a great job at guard. Byron Young sets the edge. Kobe Turner has some big plays. Talk a little bit about their performance and kind of what you expect from them going forward.
You just mentioned it. I think, Steve, Puka was big again today, just physical toughness, good aggressive hands through the catch. There's a couple things. I thought Steve did a nice job. That's an excellent front. There was a couple things communication-wise that we can clean up. And I thought Kobe and Byron, as you mentioned, did an excellent job. So I was really pleased with them. But I'm really excited to be able to look at this film, figure out where we can improve, where that margin for error, that we can just make those plays that we didn't quite make today. But this group is going to continue to improve and get better, and that's what I love about them.
And an extra day to do it. Monday Night Football at Cincinnati next. Thank you, Sean.
Okay, thanks, guys.
All right, that's head coach of the Rams, Sean McVay, and you heard him say it. You and I have talked about it, that in the NFL, it feels like a play or two can decide where these games go in the blink of an eye. As a player, Kirk, you spent over 8 seasons in the NFL.
Yeah.
Do you know it when it's like, that's one of those plays? Do you know it in the moment, that the pass that goes off a receiver's hand that lands in a defender's hands, a bad penalty, something? Do you know it in the moment, like that's going to be one of those plays?
Yeah, I think for the Rams, it's an moment because they don't have the big horses that they once had. They don't have the players in which that they had in years prior that you can overcome mistakes. Mm-hmm. The Rams are a team right now that they're limited to just one mistake a game, maybe 2, right? Because you have a bunch of young players who are still working and finding their way. The 49ers can make a couple mistakes because they've got dudes, right? They'll find a way.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy didn't throw a touchdown pass today, but yet they still were able to
score 30
points.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you can make mistakes and still find ways to score. That's not that's not the Rams way. So when the Rams went down, I'm like, they can't go down and then have a mistake, because you see what happens.
You talk about the big players on the 49ers that made big plays. Christian McCaffrey had a 50-yard run. Deebo Samuel had a touchdown. Brandon Ayuk had a couple of big plays. George Kittle involved in it. We did Nick Bosa, pretty quiet. Fred Warner had some big moments as well. But maybe the biggest star on the field, Aaron Donald, we didn't talk about him at all. And Kirk, look at the sheet right here.
Yeah, it's
no
pretty
tackles.
clean.
He was involved in some stuff, to be sure, but Aaron Donald is one of the best players in the NFL, one of the best defenders that this league has ever seen, and it was a very quiet day for him.
Yeah, he didn't have a tackle.
Yeah.
And look, that always happens with the 49ers. They, a lot of times, run away from him. They don't necessarily run to him. And Aaron usually, at some point, gets a penalty
yeah,
because he's frustrated. But I would say the same thing for Nick Bosa, too. Talking about guys who share 4 Defensive Player of the Years between them, and yet we didn't hear much from them today in the game. It was a conscious effort, I think, from both sides. Sean McVey and that offense limited Nick Bosa from getting in the backfield and making play. They only had 1 sack, and it came from a delayed blitz from a linebacker, okay? Now, on the opposite side, you got Kyle Shanahan who was like, I'm not going to let Aaron Donald wreck my game plan. So they didn't. They didn't allow and they only gave up 1 sack, and that was a Byron Young, more of a flush sack of getting him out of pocket. So both offensive lines, I thought, kept their quarterbacks pretty clean. It was just about the execution between the quarterbacks and the receivers.
All right, let's try another phone call here. Let's go to Orange County and Jonas. Jonas, you're on the Coors Light postgame show with Travis and Kirk. What's up, Jonas?
Hello?
Hey, Jonas, what's up?
Hey, how do you see the Rams playing when Cooper Kupp comes back, seeing how Puka and Tutu Atwell are playing right now?
So, what do you think, Kirk? All of a sudden, when you go in there and you throw Cooper Kupp back into the mix with Puka Nacua the way that he's going,
right,
that feels a lot like we saw with Nacua and with Robert Woods.
It feels like the Rams have a little bit more in their arsenal, right? Like you have a lot more for the Rams to now work with. So it's kind of fun here right now at Hollywood Park Casino. Got our Niner fans in the house. They're letting us know and having a good time. But
Jorge's feeling himself.
Jorge's feeling it right now. Yeah, he works with us. He's cool.
Yeah.
No, honestly, I think that the way that the offense will be when Cooper Kupp comes back is, I don't know if I want to load Cooper Kupp up. I don't think Cooper Kupp deserves 20 targets when he comes back.
Right.
I would say ease him into the offense a little bit. Try to see where – I would definitely put him in a pitch count. He first came back, and look, 15, 20 plays, 30 plays. I'm not going to give him the bulk of the targets like Puka Nacua had.
So what about, so when he first comes back, sure, you probably want to ease him back into it to a certain degree. But let's fast forward to week 8, 9, 10 and beyond.
Oh, okay. I thought you said who's the odd man out. Van Jefferson's the odd man out.
Van Jefferson's the odd man out. But does this feel to you the way that it felt when you had Woods and Kupp together, 2 guys that can run all of the routes, 2 guys that can play all 3 of the different positions? You can move them and mix them and match them and find some favorable matchups along the way, as opposed to just, here's Cooper Kupp and we're just trying to get him some help. Now you've got Cooper Kupp and you got Puka Nacua, 2 guys that can operate at a very high level.
Yeah, I think it's the latter part that you just mentioned, having guys that can play all the positions, not just narrowing or singling in on one specific guy. I think that there's a trust with Puka Nacua. We are seeing it. Because Matthew Stafford's throwing in front, behind, up top. Like, think about it. The catch ratings of Puka Nacua is a lot bigger than I think with his other wide receivers and his other pass catchers, so that he feels like if I put it in the area, Puka's going to go get it. Where it seems like with Van Jefferson, it has to be a perfect pass. It has to be belt high, numbers high, where he can get two hands on it. So that's the thing that I'm seeing now. It's going to be the guys that he trusts the most. And right now it looks like Puka for sure. Tutu's going to be in that conversation. And then when Cooper Kupp comes back, it'll be Cooper Kupp and then mix it in with Van Jefferson. Or do they go in some 4 wide receiver sets? Who knows? But, man, it's some difficult decisions for Sean McVay when that time does come.
You know what he is, too? Again, this reminds me of Robert Woods. It's not just that they both wear number 17, but He's tough, Kirk.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's a tough receiver. He's putting his face in there. He's lowering his shoulder. Yeah. He's trying to fight for that extra yard.
Correct.
He's not looking to step out of bounds. He is an incredibly physical player. He's a big guy. He's a strong guy. And it just brings an entirely different element to the game.
Yeah, and look, and one thing people don't understand that he's an older guy, 22 years old. So he spent a lot of time at BYU.
Yeah.
Actually, I want to say
Washington,
he started at
BYU.
Washington, then BYU.
Yep.
So he's been – it's not like – it's like, who is this kid from BYU? No, he's been in the Power 5. Now, he's worked his way to BYU, and he worked with Zach Wilson for a year as a young receiver. Now he gets to the National Football League, and he's done something that Jerry Rice, Randy Moss –
crazy.
Think about all the guys who have not – we're talking Justin Jefferson,
everybody.
Jamar Chase. Nobody in the NFL history has done what Puka Nacua has done in the first 2 games of his NFL career.
20 targets for Puka Nacua today. That's how much Matthew Stafford has already started to trust him. Cincinnati Bengals are coming up next. How big of a game for them on Monday Night Football? We'll break it all down. That's straight ahead on the Coors Light Postgame Show on the ESPN LA Rams Radio Network.
Show on the ESPN LA Rams Radio Network.
Shotgun snap. Here comes the blitz. Off his heels. He can't get it away. He's sacked. for the first time this season by Fred Warner. Back at the 15, the Rams offense knocked off the field.
It was a battle today at SoFi for week 2. And in the second half, the Niners defense was just too much for Matthew Stafford and the Rams' high-powered offense. Rams lose. They're 1-1 on the season. Get ready for the Bengals in week 3. We recap it all on the Coors Light Postgame Show, live from Hollywood Park Casino. Coors Light, keeping Southern California chill all season long. Once again from HPC Hollywood Park Casino, eat, drink, play. Here is Travis Rogers and Kirk Morrison.
Yeah, if you're trying to make your way out of SoFi Stadium, maybe you come on over to Hollywood Park Casino, hang out a little bit, have a drink, watch some more football, listen to us talk about the Rams and the game that they had today as well. And Kirk, we talked about Puka Nacua, we've talked about Matthew Stafford, we talked about Kyren Williams and Sean McVey, but we touched on him briefly, but I could not be more pleased with the development from Tutu Atwell, from what we've seen from him through the first couple of seasons of his Ram career to where he is right now. That isn't just a guy that is trying to get behind the defense and hit some long home runs along the way. This is somebody that is an active participant in the offense, that's running routes over the middle, that's a regular part of what it is that they're doing. That's another player that they've, I don't want to use the word discovered, but they've developed over the last couple of weeks that feels like is going to be a regular part of what they do offensively.
Wait, so you're saying Tutu or Puka?
Tutu.
Tutu took us a couple years.
Yeah.
Right, I was thinking more Puka because Puka's really just kind of come on.
He just showed up and went.
Look, he shocked me because, having covered a guy at BYU, I didn't think he was going to be this.
Yeah.
There are some other players on that team. You're like, okay, I can see that. And then, wow, he just kind of comes on the scene. Tutu, we've been waiting. Remember, first he came in and he was supposed to be the special teams guy.
Yeah.
And he couldn't catch a punt, right?
Right.
Then he was supposed to be sort of the gimmick gadget guy last year. That didn't necessarily work out because you kind of knew that when he came into the game, it was a telltale sign. I watched a little breakdown from the Seattle Seahawks and this offseason, and I remember they said, when Tutu would come in the game, when 15 would come in the game, that was his number last year, when he would come into the game, you knew that the Rams tend to try to stretch you out defensively and get things a little bit deeper.
Yep.
He said, just stay on top. He said, if he beats you deep, he beats you deep. But more importantly, that he's there to try to clear you out and then stick on the underneath stuff. So that's what it kind of was a telltale last year. This year, he's doing a little bit of everything. And he's making some difficult catches.
In traffic,
defenders
on him. He's had to absorb
Unafraid,
a couple of hits
man.
along the way as well. This is not – because, you see me every time he gets tackled over the last couple of seasons, I look at you like, man, is he going to get up? Because he's not a big man.
Right.
This is a big man's game.
Correct.
Running very fast with a lot of – and he has stood up to it really well through the first couple of weeks.
It does not look that way today, right?
Yeah.
It does not look that way now. It doesn't look that way in the first couple of weeks. He's catching balls over the middle. He's catching balls on the sideline. He's toe dragging. He's doing a little bit of everything. I'm excited to see what more you can add to his plate because he does have an element of speed. Speed on this offense is what the Rams have needed for a very long time. Now when you get Cooper Kupp back in just a couple more weeks, Travis, you're adding another one of the best receivers in the NFL to go along with two other guys that have, one, a big catch radius and one that has superior speed. So now you bring them all together, and I think each one has their piece that's just going to make the offense continue to go.
You mentioned that Tutu, when he first came to the team, he was supposed to be a special teams weapon in
the
kickoff game and the punt game as well. We saw Kyren Williams returning punts for the Rams today. He's also their number one running back all of a sudden because of what's going on with Cam Akers.
Right.
I would imagine that we probably won't see a ton of Kyren Williams back there fielding punts moving forward.
Yeah, probably won't. You know what I mean? Because I mentioned it earlier. If you have a Kyren Williams returning punts, and all of a sudden he gets a nice big return or a 10-yard return or he gets hit and he's a little bit banged up, he's now done for that series.
Yeah.
Right? Or he's out for at least for the first couple plays of that series. And so now you're looking as a defensive player. I'm just giving you my mindset as a former defensive player. I know that if your starting running back's not in, I'm just saying, okay, they may just run the ball here. I don't know how much they trust the backup to be in for protection. I don't know if they really want to run those same type of plays for the backup, which is Kyren getting him in space, seeing him. They've dumped the ball off how many times to him today in space. So it's those types of things that defenses will start to catch up on if he's back there returning punts.
You talk about catching the ball in space the way that they've done with Tutu Atwell, the way that they did with Kyren Williams. The Niners run that play that they run over, whether it's George Kittle, whether it's Ayuk, whether it's Debo, whether it's McCaffrey. They get those guys on those little drags. All of a sudden, they catch the ball. They're 4 or 5 yards clear of the nearest defender, and they let them go to work. That is a play that we've seen the 49ers run over and over and over again at the Rams.
Yeah, and that's it's just one of those situations where that's the popular play. We saw it last night with the Colorado State Colorado. It's the edge play, it's the underneath play. It's the in vogue play of the year, Travis. That's one thing that, look, you want to continue to try to find those types of play because it gets you in situations of one-on-one. It's a good man beater, okay? Because it has different elements to it, right? Think about this. So you have those underneath routes. If you get man-to-man coverage and you feel that, guess what, Travis? You keep running. Quarterback will lead you because you're man-to-man. If you feel like it's a zone where the guy is not chasing you, then you could throttle it down and sit down, find the zone, pick a spot, and do that. And that's where I think Matthew Stafford today had those short intermediate passes, right? Everything was short, quick. But when they did read those man-to-man, that's when you hooked up on some of those longer passes.
Yeah, the Rams, I thought, did a pretty good job. Tell me what you think about what we've seen from this secondary. That coming into it this year, Jalen Ramsey obviously is gone. They've gone in a totally different direction. They're very young. They're inexperienced. But so far, we haven't seen a bunch of guys. There's some, like we just talked about, some underneath stuff along the way. But as far as big plays in the passing game, we haven't seen a lot of that through the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, you're right. And I'm just trying to put a finger on why is that. I think the first part of it is they do have those passes, and I think Matthew Stafford has kind of turned them down too. If it's not there, just throw it down, check it down. But I think also too it comes from the run game. When the run game is going effective, then you can put that ball out there, get the play action, and get the ball down the field. So I think it's part of it. I don't know if it's going to be similar to what Deshaun Jackson was a couple years ago in the early part of the season. You're hitting 75, 80-yard bombs. I think for the Rams, a big play is in that 40 to 50-yard range if you're able to get one down the field.
So one of the things that the Rams had when they went into the draft this year, they were looking for somebody to be on the edge. Leonard Floyd is another one of the players that we saw leave, right? Leonard Floyd was somebody that was able to get to the quarterback reasonably effectively in his career as a Ram.
He hurt Aaron Rodgers, too, on the last Monday.
Absolutely. Now we saw Byron Young get his first NFL sack today. What have you made of what you've seen from him through the first 2 weeks?
Like Coach Prime at Colorado said, he's coming.
Yeah.
He's coming along. And it's going to be a process. Very seldom do you see guys who come right in and just make an impact on the league. I'm seeing a little bit of that from the guy who was drafted at the top in Will Anderson. But, that was one of the best defensive players in all of college football last year. What I'm seeing from Byron Young is that he's playing and he's figuring it out. Even on the play today that he had the sack, he actually got off the snap count wrong. He was a delayed. He wasn't even set. And he's also tipping it off because he knows that he's going to loop underneath, so he kind of stepped back in his stance a little bit. It's just these little telltale signs that offensive linemen will know. But, look, he's starting to learn it, and with all the attention on Aaron Donald, we already know the guy opposite Aaron Donald will continue to be, a guy that's going to get a lot of one-on-ones, and he just got to win.
Well, they're going to need somebody to get to the quarterback because this is, especially we saw what happens when Aaron Donald is taken out of the game the way that he was today. Brock Purdy was pretty comfortable back there most of the day. Now, he didn't light it up. He didn't shred the Rams for 1,000,000 yards along the way. His numbers were, I would say, good, not great. But if they're going to get to where they need to be, they're going to have to get pressure on the quarterback. And so far, it hasn't happened a lot through the first 2 weeks.
No, not at all. And I think it's still part of the process. It's the 49ers, though. They get the ball out quickly. They ran the ball quickly, too. They had explosive plays. And they just didn't have a lot of third down opportunities. Now, it was they were 2 for 9. But the third down opportunities really didn't come until late in the fourth quarter. For the most part, the 49ers were getting wins on first down, second down. They didn't punt but once in the first half. And I believe in the second half, how many times they punt? Maybe two
Maybe
or three?
twice more.
Maybe twice? Everything for the 49ers is ended with a kick, ended with with points being scored. So that is part of their offense. Purdy doesn't have to be great. He just has to be efficient, and that's what he was today.
We will hear from the Rams quarterback, Matthew Stafford. He was at the podium just a little while ago. That's coming up next at the Coors Light Postgame Show on the ESPN LA Rams Radio Network.
All tied up, but that Niners defense engulfed the Rams' high-powered offense.
3rd down and 5. Stafford sets, throws middle, intercepted, picked off at the 35. Diamador Lenore back to the right side. 20, 15, runs out of room and out of bounds at the right sideline. Stafford's second pick of the day.
Time to react to all of it right now on the Coors Light Postgame Show on the ESPN LA Rams Radio Network.
Hi, this is Sean McVey of your LA Rams. The Rams play here.
Travis Rogers, Kirk Morrison are live at Hollywood Park Casino. As the Rams drop to 1-1, we will bring you Coach McVay's comments, all the postgame sound, and look ahead to Week 3. Monday Night Football against the Bengals, who are 0-2 and lost today to the Ravens. That's all ahead from Hollywood Park Casino. Hollywood Park Casino. Eat, drink, play.
This is the Coors Light Postgame Show.
The home of Rams football.
Let's do it. The Coors Light Postgame Show right now. Now inside HPC Hollywood Park Casino with Kirk Morrison. Here's Travis Rogers.
30-23 is the final score, and the 23 is a little interesting, Kirk. The Rams elected to kick a field goal at the end of the game to make it that final score, a 7-point differential. For the people that are interested in such things, that was a very meaningful kick at the end of the game to take it from a 10-point lead down to a 7-point lead. The Rams all of a sudden get a little bit of a backdoor cover. Not that that was the reason for you. Still onside kick, all these other things along the way, but that was made some people happy. Made some people that had the Rams and the points very happy at the end of that one.
We may find that on Bad Beats tomorrow with Scott Van Pelt following Monday Night Football, because that one definitely falls into a bad beat.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about what went down at SoFi today. The first half, that game, 17-17 going into the half, Rams had a 17-10 lead with about 1 minute and 45 seconds left after they scored that touchdown to give them a 7-point advantage. The 49ers go right back down and score again before the end of the half, and that felt like the first time we've seen the Rams and the 49ers on the field at the same time, kind of on equal footing. The Niners may have a little bit more high-level talent and big-name talent along the way, but they went toe-to-toe with the 49ers for half. The second half, a little bit of a different story. The Niner, they just kind of kept coming, and there was a couple of mistakes along the way, a couple of interceptions from Matthew Stafford. But what's the overall takeaway from you? A team that looked terrific in the first half, or the team that struggled a little bit in the second?
I think I'll take away what they did in the first half.
Yeah.
Because it was very similar to what they did against the Seattle Seahawks. They shortened the game, right? The possessions, we were talking about it. I believe there was only, 4 possessions apiece?
In the first half? Yeah.
No, 7. 7 possessions. I remember. I wrote it down right here. 7 possessions by both teams, and there were 6 scores. So basically you had the Rams scored 2 touchdowns and a field goal. The 49ers scored a touchdown, 2 field goals. Really, but the 49ers got that extra possession with 1:45 left on the clock. That could have been both teams just have 6 possessions, and I thought the Rams, that's what you want. That's the formula of beating the 49ers, limiting their opportunities. Okay, limiting their opportunities, but making sure you score on your opportunity. I thought, for me, the bigger part was that me and you, we talked about it. This was a team that, you cannot just kick field goals if the 49ers are going to score touchdowns. That was not the case today, right? What did they do? They were kicking field goals, but then they come back with a touchdown. And then they held the 49ers to a field goal. And then they would go score a touchdown. That's the way that you beat the 49ers, is that you have to counter their touchdown with points, but more importantly, when you get your opportunity, you got to score a touchdown.
You better score touchdowns.
A field goal, okay, but when you got an opportunity to score a touchdown, you have to. To kick it back-to-back field goals was not going to get it done.
Well, look, there's an entire half of football left, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because a million things can happen, but it did feel like had the Rams been able to go into halftime with the lead, had they been able, whether it's a 17-10 lead or a 17-13 lead, had they come out and been able to get the ball in the second half like they were going to, they deferred to the second half,
correct,
and been able to put points on the board right there, whether it was just a 3 or a 7, I wonder how different the rest of that game felt, because it really did feel like the Rams had the momentum when they took that 17-10 lead, and after that, it felt like most of it had swung back to the 49ers, and it never really swung back the other way.
Never swung back. The 49ers went into the halftime confident that we fix some things. I mean, you talk about having some onions to go for it on a 4th down situation.
For sure they were going to kick it.
To go for it and run it.
Right.
Not like, we're going to throw it. No, we're going to get our offensive line, and we're going to push you into the end zone, score a touchdown. Now, I know it was a QB sneak, but still, I thought that was kind of maybe the call of the game. outside of Sean McVay, requesting a challenge for a call earlier in the game. I thought that was a smart play by Sean McVay.
Saved him 4 points.
Yeah, so that was a smart play by Sean McVay, but I thought the call of the game had to be Kyle Shanahan. You don't do that if you're not comfortable with your team. He's very comfortable.
So I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here, but Puka Nacua had 20 targets today. He had 15 catches, which is a NFL rookie record for receptions in a game. He has more receptions through the first 2 games of his NFL career than anyone has ever.
Wow.
So that's obviously a step in the right direction. Is he as good as he looks, Kirk, or is this just a crazy good start?
Wow, that's a good question. I think he is as good as he looks. Now, he is going to now start to see a lot more coverage his way. I think teams may start to do a little bit more and try to take him out. But it does open up, I think, a situation for when Cooper Kupp comes back. It's kind of pick your poison. So I think that he's the Rams' #1 wide receiver, but that's just for right now.
Right.
Because I did see a conscious effort from the 49ers to try to limit him, and yet he still was able to. Like, at some point as a defensive coordinator, I know you're trying to get it to number 17.
Right.
They tried to get it to him 20 times today, and yet he was still successful. Travis, like, that just, to me, that's why I'm saying that I think this is going to be successful for the Rams moving forward. It's just going to be a week-to-week basis. I do need to see another running back, though. We didn't see that. Ronnie Rivers had a big run, but remember it came back from the holding call. I want to see the Rams put a little more together, but yeah, I would agree with Puka Nacua being able to continue the success he's had to start.
20 targets for Puka Nacua today. We'll talk about Kyron Williams as well. A lot on his load because Cam Akers was inactive today, a healthy inactive, and of course, we've been through this before with Cam Akers, so we'll see what that is as we get deeper and deeper into the season, including next week. Monday Night Football at Cincinnati against the Bengals. Matthew Stafford, a couple of interceptions today. We'll hear from him coming up next. He was at the podium just a few minutes ago. That's straight ahead on the Coors Light Postgame Show on 710 ESPN. Heard right there, Matthew Stafford sacked for the first time this season. That's just 1 through 2 games. He did throw his first 2 interceptions of the season.
He did, man.
The Rams have scored 53 points through the first 2 weeks of
the season.
And we saw what it looked like last year when they really struggled to find offense. Even when Matthew Stafford was there, they were having trouble getting the ball in the end zone. Not so much through the first 2 weeks. What do you make of the Rams offense at their 1-1 mark?
I still think that there's a lot more room to grow. First of all, they figured out the running back position now. So now you can kind of figure that out. Hello, do we have a tight end on the team?
He's been pretty quiet too.
And very quiet. So for them to score this many points in the first couple games, they average about 25 points a game. I kind of like where they're at right now. You know what we're not talking about either? We're not talking about the kicker. Brett Maher has been great first 2 weeks.
Made his kicks. Stayed perfect so far.
Make his kicks. That's it. That's all you ask. And sometimes you just, Brett Maher probably needed another place to beat and change the scenery, and he's been doing what he's supposed to do. So I'm looking at all of the positives over the first couple weeks and say this is still a team that's still finding its way, and they'll be able to go on the road again and prove it against a team in Cincinnati who's reeling right now. I'd rather be the Rams than the Cincinnati.
Excuse me, Kirk.
Yeah,
Matthew Stafford, 34 out of 55 today, 307 yards. He did have a touchdown pass along with those 2 interceptions, and he spoke with the media after the game.
Matt, what did you think of the job the offensive line did for you? You guys obviously had to throw the ball quite a bit, probably more than you wanted to, but, you had 1 sack in this one.
Yeah, did a great job. Kept me clean majority of the night. That's a great front. They started getting aggressive in the second half. We did a great job of kind of undressing their pressures for the most part, and when we got 5-on-5 and 5 guys out, we were successful in the pass game. Still things we can clean up communication-wise, but I thought they played their tails off and kept me clean, which I appreciate.
Kyron's really running the well, having a great start of the season, but how tough was it to overcome that tip that was in his hand at that point in the game?
There's a lot of time left. We have more opportunities in that game. There's no more conscientious guy on our team, nobody that wants to do right more than that guy, so I got no problem with it. Obviously, he knows he can catch that ball, but it's part of it. There's going to be those things that are unfortunate that don't go your way in this game, but all the trust in the world in him and his process and his ability to get it done.
On the second one, what did you see on that?
2-man. But he was, we have some static routes there, and that was the one mover I had. Really in looking back on it, maybe I try and scramble, but I don't know that I was getting out of there. They did a nice job kind of collapsing it on that one. So, guy made a nice play. He's got a ton of help over the top, so he can undercut and made a good play.
As a veteran, how do you navigate the ebbs and flows of a young roster that does a lot of good things, but then still makes some young mistakes?
Yeah, continue to try to push. Just try to push them. I'm trying to be as good as I can be as well. If I can, do the appropriate thing the majority of the time or more often, then maybe I can. Show those guys the way. I'm trying to do everything I can. I know those guys are fighting tooth and nail. They're asking me questions. We're trying to get on the same page and do it as well as we possibly can. That's part of it. I was a young player once. I'm not naive to that. I love the effort and the fight and the strain these guys have, the attention and the week that they have to go in there and play, at a high level, and the intention to do so on Sundays. And this Sunday was no different. This was a hell of a game. A couple plays here or there, and this one's in our back pocket. So. Frustrating as it always is to not get the win, but proud of the way the guys, stepped up and played today.
Over the last 2 weeks, even though today was a loss, do you feel like from the line to the run game to the way receivers are going after the ball, do you feel like there's an establishment of a physical identity within this group?
Yeah, we got to go out and prove it every single day. Got to go out there and put the pads on and go and make it happen. But we definitely have some guys that are, big physical players, both up front and on the perimeter. Those guys are doing a nice job. We got to make sure that we're getting the most out of everybody on our roster and go from there.
How do you guys handle, Cam Akers' situation, again, where he's not active for the game?
The next guy's up, whether it's, a situation like Cam's or an injury, we're used to this. This is the NFL. Every week there's somebody that tweaks something on a Friday, and here we go. Well, the next guy's up to play. So, it's something that at least I'm probably more used to than some of the guys that are rookies. But it's part of it. It's not a fun part. Love every guy I've ever played with. Love the teammates that I have, Cam included. It's part of the business, and we got to do they have to do whatever they feel is right.
When did you find out he'd be inactive?
I can't even tell you the moment. I'm not even going to remember. I'm sorry. Wasn't today, so that helps.
Matthew, you've always said your job is to read the defense and find the guy that's open. Why is Puka Nacua getting so open, especially for a young guy right now?
I mean, as far as getting open, he's winning his matchup. If he gets a man matchup, he's winning and doing a great job of separating and catching the ball, making plays after he catches it. If we're in zone, I'm just clicking through progressions, and he was on the front side of a few of them today and did a nice job making some catches. That one sequence we had where missed Tutu on the sideline on the one got his, I threw it, and then the next one I missed him on the sideline. Wish I'd have gotten that ball up. Maybe it changes the game a little bit, but I thought he played great. A lot of guys on the outside played really well, so just continue to hone our process and continue to try to get better throughout the week because football, unlike other sports, you play games in baseball, you play games in basketball, you play games in hockey to get better. We practice to get better and then see what we got on Sunday. So we continue to push ourselves in practice, and I like where we're headed.
That's Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford after the Rams lose 30-23 to the San Francisco 49ers today. I thought it was interesting listening to him talk about Cam Akers when he was asked about that. And he said, guys that have been in this league for a minute, they're used to this. Sometimes guys come up, on Friday and they get injured, and you got to figure it out by Sunday who's going to be in that lineup.
Correct.
Is that the same thing as this? Is a guy that isn't necessarily injured but just is told, we're not going to use you today for reasons that we don't quite know yet, but I think we can probably guess at to some degree. Is it the same thing for his teammates?
Yeah, that happens. Yeah. It happens a lot, actually. It happens because guy wakes up and just doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Or isn't right, something. So I've had that happen, right, before where guys just are not available, and it's all right, next man up. Hey, and you don't have time to think about it. You don't have time to sorry about it. It's just, hey, you got to go out there and play. I thought the Rams, they handled it the best way that they could today.
Okay, a couple of very wild games in the NFL today. We're going to take a trip around Week 2. That's coming up next on the Coors Light Postgame Show on 710 ESPN.
Miller Park Casino. Eat, drink, play. Here is Travis Rogers and Kirk Morrison.
Well, Kirk, the Rams are not going to go 17-0 this season. They're going to lose at least one game. They drop it today against the Niners, 30-23. But there are a couple of teams that are a very surprising 2-0 right out of the gate, which brings us to our top games of the day, brought to you by Morongo Casino Resort and Spa. Morongo Casino Resort and Spa, good time. So let's start right here. What's a bigger surprise right now, that Atlanta is 2-0 after their win today against the Packers, or the fact that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 2-0 beating the Chicago Bears?
I think the Buccaneers being 2-0 is something that, like, I just didn't have, right? You know what I mean? I'm like, before it was Baker Mayfield was just on his team last year.
Right.
And now he's leading the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who we thought they're maybe trying to find a way to get a quarterback in next year's draft.
Down the street here,
look,
Williams,
right?
They've
made a couple of plays, right? But they've beaten two teams that we're just like, really? You know what I mean?
Bears and the Vikings.
Bears and Bears and the Vikings. You're like, if they beat the 49ers, you're like, okay, wow. But they beat two teams that we kind of guessed that they could be up or down. So I'm surprised, but it's good to see them off to a good start.
Baker Mayfield, 317 yards and a touchdown pass in a 27-17 win against the Chicago Bears. On the other side of that, the Los Angeles Chargers are 0-2. Woo! They lose in overtime to a Tennessee team that is not a particularly strong team, I think.
Ouch.
The Chargers are 0-2 after dropping the game in Nashville today.
Ouch. That's me sitting on a hot seat right now.
It was hot before the season even started.
This seat is hot over here, man. I mean, think about it. Brandon Staley, this was a team that a lot of people were talking about playing in late January.
Sure.
Okay? Remember, the Chargers have six primetime games, Travis. So we haven't even seen them in primetime yet, and they're already in the 0-2 hole. So maybe we have to get ready for some flexing, because right now this team they cannot find a way to win. They were without Austin Eckler today, but still, you don't lose those types of games.
Well, it's just such a weird deal, too, because they have a ton of star players. They have
do.
a ton of names
Right.
that you know, whether it's Justin Herbert or Khalil Mack or Bosa or, you know, right up and down the line. They got a bunch of guys that you know, but they've got that thing that just no matter what's going on, they instead of finding ways to win, they find ways to lose football games.
Yeah, it's just hard. It's just everybody always see it, right? You see it on social media. The Chargers going to charge.
Yep.
It's a real thing. It's true.
They did it today. The Chiefs get their first win of the season, 17-9 against